Y'all, this is how I feel about this post. I feel like Stefanski is 1,000% a lock to get fired. Andrew Berry is sort of safe, y'all. Hear me out, y'all. He's sort of safe. I think this year's draft picks might have made him safe. Think about it, y'all. He secured us a D tackle, the best D tackle in the draft. He secured us a linebacker, might be the best linebacker in the draft. Then he went ahead and drafted us 2 cold-ass running backs. Quishon Judkins already showed us.
The Cleveland Browns are a disaster. And I don't mean the usual kind of Cleveland disaster fans have sadly come to expect. I mean a fire alarm, red button, full-blown implosion that feels like instant karma coming back to collect its debt. 2 games into the season, and it already looks like the Browns have tripped over their own shoelaces before the marathon even started. They've managed to hit rock bottom while somehow still digging. An offense that was hyped as playoff ready has turned into one of the NFL's worst jokes. 2 games in, they rank dead last in rushing yards per carry, tied for the most dropped passes, and they're losing the turnover battle every single week. The record books don't lie. This is the first time in franchise history they've started 0-2 while actually outgaining their opponents. If that doesn't scream dysfunction, nothing will. And standing in the middle of this circus is Kevin Stefanski, a man who started the season puffing out his chest, dismissing Shedeur Sanders like he was an afterthought, a rookie best left in the shadows. Fast forward just 2 humiliating weeks, and suddenly Stefanski's playbook is burning in his hands. The boos from the dog pound are echoing like thunder, and the only name anyone wants to hear is Shedeur Sanders. That's karma, pure uncut instant karma. You disrespect the one player who could have saved you, and now you're forced to crawl back, desperate, clinging to the very quarterback you tossed aside.
I'm about to unleash on the Cleveland Browns and what is going on in Cleveland. Sickened by what I saw offensively from the Cleveland Browns. I went back, watched the film, and I almost threw up. I mean, what is going on with the Browns team right now? In their first 2 games, they have an NFL low 2.4 yards per carry in first halves. It's abysmal. Cleveland has also dropped 5 passes through 2 games. That's tied for the most in the NFL. And this is the first time in Browns franchise history that they've started 0-2 while outgaining.
The story isn't just football anymore. It's drama, it's comedy, it's tragedy. And the question every Browns fan is asking is simple. Is this the moment Shedeur Sanders saves Cleveland, or the moment Kevin Stefanski finally loses it all? The Browns didn't just lose their first 2 games. They imploded in a way that feels like a cruel parody of football. On paper, Cleveland actually outgained both opponents. Stat sheets suggested competence, maybe even control. But when you zoom into the details, it's uglier than anyone imagined. Through 2 weeks, the Browns are averaging an NFL low 2.4 yards per carry in first halves. That's not just bad, that's historically bad. Every rushing attempt feels like pushing a stalled car uphill. And when the passing game is supposed to pick up the slack, the receivers respond by dropping passes left and right. 5 in 2 games, tied for most in the league. It's dysfunction layered on dysfunction. The playbook looks stale, the execution looks sloppy, and the body language on the sideline is louder than any stat. Players look frustrated, coaches look lost, and fans look like they're watching the same nightmare on repeat. And all of this is happening while the Browns technically gain yards. They move the ball, but they move it like a drunk driver swerving across lanes, reckless, aimless.
In Cleveland, you got to go through 2 individuals to insert yourself as, the starter. Dylan Gabriel, who's now the second quarterback at hand, and then obviously Joe Flacco. And when you consider those things, it's like, what situation is better?
But he didn't know that he was going to wind up in Cleveland. No. He didn't know that. He opted for what was behind curtain number 2 rather than the known curtain in Baltimore.
And destined for a crash. Worse yet, the defense isn't bailing them out. 9 straight games, losing the turnover battle dating back to last season. 0 forced turnovers in the opening stretch. It's like Cleveland is allergic to momentum. In today's NFL, you can't win if you can't steal possessions. And right now, the Browns aren't just failing to steal them, they're gifting them away. The dog pound is howling in frustration. Boos rain down before halftime. Social media is flooded with memes and demands for change. And all Kevin Stefanski can do is stand there, headset on, staring into space like he's waiting for answers to fall out of the sky. But here's the kicker. This isn't just bad football. This is karma. Because waiting in the wings is the one quarterback who could flip everything, the same quarterback Stefanski brushed aside. And the deeper this collapse gets, the louder his name becomes. But that wasn't the whole story. The real chaos began when panic finally hit the sideline. Kevin Stefanski walked into this season carrying himself like a man with all the answers. Clipboard tucked under his arm, calm voice at press conferences, and the smug confidence of a coach who believed his system would fix everything. Shedeur Sanders? He was just a rookie, just another name buried on the depth chart. Stefanski made it clear early on. This was his team, his scheme, his rules. But the NFL has a way of humbling coaches who think they're untouchable, and it didn't take long for reality to crack the mask.
Star defensive end Myles Garrett says, "This is embarrassing." He's mad about it, and everybody else should be fired up about it, but Stefanski's just keeping the same coach approach that he always does in press conferences. Me, I'm pissed off. It goes further back than this. Now the turnover battle has been lost in 9 straight games. That dates back to Week 12 of the 2024 season. Cleveland hasn't forced a turnover since Week 16 of last season. What are we doing? And all we're doing is giving up turnovers. Did you see the Flacco pick when he was trying to go?
2 games in, his master plan is in shambles. The running game is non-existent. The passing attack is clumsy, and his 40-year-old emergency quarterback looks like he should be preparing for a retirement ceremony instead of lining up under center. Suddenly, the same man who dismissed Sanders without hesitation is forced to consider him as the lifeline. That's not strategy. That's desperation dressed up as leadership. The panic is visible now. Every press conference sounds more defensive than the last. Stefanski insists we're evaluating, insists we like our guys, insists we're sticking to the plan. But the tone is cracking. The confidence is gone. He looks like a man clinging to the edge of a cliff, trying to convince the world that dangling over disaster is exactly where he wanted to be. And here's the cruel twist. Stefanski knows the moment he turns to Shedeur, the narrative shifts against him. If Sanders comes in and thrives, every headline will scream the same thing. Why wasn't this move made sooner? If Sanders struggles, fans will demand to know why he wasn't developed earlier. Why precious time was wasted protecting a broken system. No matter the outcome, Stefanski loses. That's panic. That's karma. And that's the storm brewing in Cleveland right now, because the Browns aren't just fighting for wins anymore. They're fighting for identity. And the more Stefanski resists, the more obvious it becomes. He's losing control of the locker room, the fan base, and the narrative.
Bad, y'all. It's really bad. I'm ready for Dillon too, though, y'all. I understand that Dillon is the number 2 quarterback on the roster. That's what I'm saying. Put him in first and then let Shedeur go get his. Y'all, eventually they gonna put Shedeur in. They not just gonna stick with Dillon Gabriel the rest of the season. I don't see that happen. Yes, I'm ready for Dillon, because when Dillon gets in, that means Shedeur is closer to getting in. That's what I'm ready for. At this point, we ain't getting nothing out.
But the real nightmare wasn't just his panic. It was the optics, and they were brutal. If the Browns' record was embarrassing, the optics made it downright humiliating. Think about it. Kevin Stefanski spent months brushing Shedeur Sanders aside like he was some wide-eyed rookie who needed years of seasoning. Fast forward just 2 weeks into the season, and the same coach is now peeking over his clipboard, hinting that maybe, just maybe, the kid could save his job. To fans, that isn't leadership. That's desperation. It's like unfollowing someone on social media only to crawl back with a friend request after their follower count explodes. Nobody respects that move. Not the fans, not the locker room, and definitely not the league. And now Cleveland is the punchline, with rival fans and analysts clowning them in memes, calling the Browns a reality show in pads. Inside the locker room, the shift is even uglier. Veterans who usually stay silent about team politics are suddenly dropping subtle signals. Like on Sanders' viral clip here, a repost on Instagram there. Younger players are whispering that the future is standing on the sideline while the present crumbles on the field. The trust that once existed between coach and team is evaporating. And in the NFL, once a locker room doubts its leader, it's only a matter of time before the whole structure collapses. Meanwhile, the optics around Sanders himself are glowing. Every time his name trends online, it brings a tidal wave of excitement. Clips from college, Interviews where he carries himself with poise, even sideline shots of him staying composed. They all feed into the narrative that he's ready. Fans don't just want him, they believe in him. And that belief makes Stefanski's stubbornness look even worse. Here's the brutal truth. It doesn't matter what Stefanski says anymore. Public perception has already chosen sides. The fans see Sanders as the future. The board sees Sanders as leverage. The locker room sees Sanders as the spark. And Stefanski? He's standing there, looking like the only man in Cleveland who doesn't get it. But the real collapse wasn't in optics alone. It played out in brutal detail under center. And Joe Flacco's fiasco made it undeniable. When Cleveland turned to Joe Flacco, it wasn't a bold strategy. It was a Hail Mary made out of duct tape and denial. A 39-year-old quarterback with cement in his cleats and a throwing arm that looked more like a slingshot from the clearance aisle. The Ravens didn't even need to blitz. They just sat back, dropped 7 into coverage, and watched Flacco float passes like postcards sent to the wrong address. Every snap felt like a reminder that the Browns were trying to revive a career that should have stayed retired. Fans in the stands couldn't hide it. The groans grew louder with every 3-and-out, every checkdown, every misread. And when Flacco lobbed up an interception that looked like a punt gone wrong, even the announcers could barely find polite words. This wasn't veteran savvy. This was slow-motion collapse, and it was painful to watch. But here's the kicker. Stefanski clung to Flacco like a lifeline, as if keeping Sanders on the bench while trotting out a quarterback older than some assistant coaches was somehow going to fix the disaster. Instead, it amplified it. Every mistake Flacco made, every ball that died in the air before reaching its target, was another neon sign flashing. Play Shedeur.
Two ways you could look at it. You could look at it and be thankful and take full advantage of the opportunity, or you could look at it like, dang, this is what I've been asking for, I'm not prepared. So I'll say I've been able to sleep good at night, knowing I was playing. I didn't know I was playing till, I don't know, one of the days that was close. and then I just prepared it as normal. But it was definitely that switch and it kicked in. And when you out there on the field, it's different. Like, you understand, ball is ball. But ball never been a problem for me.
And the optics were brutal. Watching a fan base chant the name of a quarterback who hasn't even started a game, while your chosen veteran limps through the offense. That's not just a fiasco. That's humiliation on national TV. It turned Flacco from a respected Super Bowl champion into a symbol of Cleveland's dysfunction, a living reminder of everything wrong with this franchise's decision-making. For Sanders, though, the fiasco only helped his case. He didn't need to step on the field to win hearts. Flacco's performance did all the campaigning for him. And by the time the final whistle blew, the fans weren't just angry. They were united. They wanted the future, and the future wasn't wearing number 15. But the saga didn't end with Flacco's collapse, because now the Browns were facing something even more dangerous. The fan revolt boiling over in Cleveland. Cleveland fans aren't quiet. They never have been. This is a city that lives and breathes football, and when the Browns stumble, the entire city shakes with it. But what's happening now? This isn't just frustration. It's a full-blown revolt. By week 2, the chants had already started. "We want Shedeur," echoing through the stadium like a war cry. It wasn't polite applause. It wasn't scattered voices. It was unified, deafening, undeniable. You could hear it on the broadcast, drowning out the commentary, shaking the sideline. And if you think players don't notice, think again. Nothing rattles a locker room faster than a fan base publicly choosing sides. Social media poured gasoline on the fire. Hashtags like Shedeur Sanders and Fire Stefanski trended within hours. Clips of Shedeur's college highlights circulated alongside Flacco's lowlights, spliced together like a cruel joke. Memes roasted the coaching staff, calling the offense 3 yards and a cloud of embarrassment. Even rival fan bases joined in, clowning Cleveland's refusal to play their most exciting weapon. And the players? They weren't blind either. When veterans started liking posts about Shedeur on Instagram, when teammates casually dropped his name in press scrums with sly grins, the writing was on the wall. This wasn't just outside noise. The revolt had slipped inside the locker room. That's what makes this moment so dangerous. Fan anger is one thing, but fan anger mixed with locker room whispers. That's a ticking time bomb. The kind of storm that no coach, no GM, no PR spin can contain. Cleveland is a football town starved for hope. And right now, Shedeur Sanders represents that hope. Stefanski represents the wall standing in the way. And when fans believe the coach is blocking their future, the revolt doesn't fade. It grows. Louder, stronger, meaner. Until eventually, the franchise has no choice but to give them what they want. But if the fans were already shaking the stadium, what came next shook the organization itself, the ownership stepping in to put Stefanski on notice. When fans revolt, franchises can still hide behind excuses. When the locker room whispers, a coach can still play tough. But when ownership steps in, that's when the ground starts cracking beneath everyone's feet. Reports leaked just hours after Cleveland's second loss. An emergency meeting. No press release, no spin. Just a closed-door gathering of Jimmy Haslam, Andrew Berry, and a select circle of executives. The topic wasn't vague. It wasn't about evaluating all positions. It was one man, one decision, one problem. Kevin Stefanski. For ownership, the stakes were bigger than a losing record. This wasn't just about X's and O's. It was about image, revenue, and control. Sponsors don't line up behind a team that looks lost. Fans don't fill stadium seats for stubborn mediocrity. And right now, every metric, ticket sales, social media buzz, merchandise, was tied to Shedeur Sanders. The player they refused to play had become the centerpiece of their future brand without even starting a game. Executives weren't asking if anymore. They were asking when. When does Sanders start? When does the narrative flip? And most dangerously for Stefanski, when does the organization stop protecting the coach and start protecting the investment? The whispers grew louder. Internal emails about quarterback development, rumors of agents calling ownership directly, pressure from outside voices who smelled blood in the water. You don't need leaks to know when a franchise is shifting. You can see it in the body language. Stefanski's pressers looked like hostage videos. Andrew Berry, once stoic, now looked like a man rehearsing answers before questions were even asked. And Haslam? He's a businessman before he's a football man. Businessmen don't tolerate assets being wasted. Businessmen don't watch merchandise fly off shelves with one player's name and then keep that player locked away. The writing was on the wall. Ownership wasn't just watching anymore. They were circling, evaluating, preparing. Because if the board believes Shedeur Sanders is the future, Kevin Stefanski is no longer the leader. He's the liability, and once ownership draws that line, there's only one step left, handing the rookie the reins and watching the storm explode on the field. Every quarterback has a debut, but not every debut feels like destiny. When Shedeur Sanders finally stepped onto the field, the air shifted. The chants weren't background noise anymore, they were thunder. The fans weren't just cheering. They were pleading, demanding, roaring, like the weight of the entire franchise was being carried in on his shoulders. And in that moment it was. The first snap didn't even need to be spectacular. It was the symbol that mattered. The kid they buried on the bench, the quarterback the coach refused to trust, was now leading the huddle under the brightest lights Cleveland had seen in years. Every eye in the stadium, every camera lens, every reporter's pen locked in on him. This wasn't just football anymore. It was theater. It was power. It was revolution. And then the play. Smooth drop back, calm pocket presence. The kind of poise that doesn't look like a rookie drowning in the moment, but a quarterback who knew he belonged. The ball snapped from his hand like a lightning bolt. Completion. First down. Crowd eruption so loud, you could feel it vibrating through the broadcast feed. It wasn't just yards gained. It was credibility earned in real time. From there, the energy was contagious. Teammates ran harder. The offensive line blocked longer. The receivers looked alive again, breaking routes with sharpness. Even the defense fed off it, roaring to the sideline as if the franchise had finally rediscovered its pulse. Stefanski, meanwhile, stood on the sideline looking less like a head coach and more like a man watching the ground cave beneath him. Every successful throw was a reminder. The rookie he resisted might be the quarterback who saves the season and erases the coach in the process. That's why this wasn't just a turning point on the scoreboard. It was a turning point in the Browns' identity. For once, the fans weren't clinging to maybe next year. They were witnessing something real, something undeniable, but the story doesn't end with a first down. Because the more Shedeur succeeded, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about winning games. It was about rewriting the power structure of the entire franchise. In the NFL, most stories end the same way. The coach gets the final word, the system dictates the narrative, and the players fall in line. But Shedeur Sanders didn't just walk onto the field. He flipped that hierarchy on its head. What began as a quarterback controversy was now something far bigger. A cultural shift, live on prime time. The moment he took control of the offense, it was clear this wasn't about Stefanski anymore. The fans weren't chanting the coach's name. The players weren't drawing inspiration from his leadership. Every ounce of energy pulsed through one man in shoulder pads, commanding the room without a headset, without a title, just with presence. That's when the balance of power tipped. Stefanski, the once confident architect, became a spectator to his own unraveling. His clipboard looked more like a prop than a plan. Each successful snap Shedeur executed was a dagger to the old system, proof that talent silenced politics and truth outweighed stubbornness. And while the scoreboard only told part of the story, the body language told the rest. Teammates rallied around the rookie. The stadium sang his name, and the coach, the man who once dismissed him, suddenly looked like the afterthought. But here's the kicker. This wasn't just a Browns moment. Across the league, front offices were watching. Other locker rooms were buzzing. Commentators weren't talking about Cleveland's scheme anymore. They were talking about Shedeur Sanders as a symbol, the new NFL, where authenticity beats tradition, where players don't just play the game, they control the narrative. That's why this wasn't just a game recap. This was a cultural headline. A quarterback wasn't just trusted with the ball, he was trusted with the future. And the irony couldn't be sharper. The very player Stefanski tried to bury is now the face of the Browns' survival. Because in Cleveland, everyone knows one truth now. The franchise doesn't belong to the headset on the sideline. It belongs to the quarterback who dared to speak, dared to wait, and dared to deliver when it mattered most. The old Browns, they collapsed under pride. The new Browns, they just found their leader, and there it is. The chapter that Cleveland never saw coming, the one they tried to avoid until karma shoved it down their throats. The Browns thought they could hold off change, keep Shedeur Sanders in the shadows, and cling to the comfort of old routines. But the truth doesn't wait. It doesn't bend to politics. It doesn't pause for fragile egos. Truth takes the mic, drops the line, and forces everyone to listen. And that's exactly what Shedeur did. Kevin Stefanski may still be pacing the sidelines, but the narrative is gone. The city doesn't belong to him anymore. It belongs to the quarterback who refused to be silenced, the one who turned a single ESPN interview into a movement, and the one who showed, with every snap, every word, every calm smile, that he is not just ready, he is inevitable. This isn't just about the Browns' season. It's about the league watching a new era unfold. Coaches used to control the narrative. Front offices used to write the script. But Shedeur Sanders just flipped the page. And now, the entire NFL has to play catch-up. So here's the question that lingers over Cleveland tonight. Is this the moment they finally embrace the future? Or is it the moment their stubbornness burns the whole house down? Because if history has taught us anything, it's this. When a player wins the locker room, the coach's clock starts ticking. And Shedeur? He didn't just win the locker room. He won the city. He won the league. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Shedeur out of line? Or is he rewriting the rules in real time? Hit that like button, subscribe for daily drama, and buckle up. Because if this is the beginning, just imagine what happens next.